Hello everybody, good afternoon to you all. The cost of living is without doubt the key issue for all Kiwis, and outside all of the noise of what happens here in Wellington and across the world, the thing that people go to bed at night and wake up in the morning thinking about is paying their mortgage or their rent, buying their groceries, filling up the car and having enough left over for school uniforms, Christmas presents or treats for the kids every now and then. And that is why this government is so focused on the economy and growing the economy, because it's only through a strong economy that wages rise faster than inflation, that Kiwis can get ahead of their daily costs and our businesses can take risks that can mean that they can invest, grow and create more jobs. Now, other parties in Parliament believe that raising taxes, growing the public sector and giving more handouts to those who refuse to work is the answer. Spending more, taxing more and borrowing more, as Labour and others advocate for, didn't work in the past and it won't work in the future. While inflation is down to 2.7% from the highs of 7.3% under Labour, the reality is that Kiwis are still trying to catch up after years of increases fuelled by Labour's wasteful spending and borrowing. This week marks a full year since tax relief was introduced, and soon the Minister of Finance will recap a range of other measures taken by the government to ease the pressure on Kiwis. You will have seen yesterday that we are taking action on another driver of the cost of living in New Zealand, the cost of building, by allowing thousands of additional building products to be used from overseas. Anyone who has built or repaired a home or saved up to do renovations will tell you that the cost of doing so is largely driven by the cost of building products, and competition is much needed. And a new measure announced today will ensure that Kiwis, the price Kiwis see on the price tag is the same one that they pay at the checkout. Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister Scott Simpson has announced that the government will ban in-store credit and debit card surcharges like paywave fees. You will no longer be penalised for your choice of payment method, whether that's tapping, swiping or using your phone's digital wallet. Measures like these are important, but the most important thing we can do to make you better off is to double down on our long-term economic plan. While our economy grew 4 times as fast as Australia's in the first 3 months of this year, global uncertainty continues to pose a risk. And that makes it even more crucial to continue pushing ahead with our economic plan. Like $6 billion of infrastructure projects starting by Christmas, with several billion more in value going through the fast-track process. Like building roads of national significance and completing the City Rail link to unlock investment in Auckland. Like signing new deals with the UAE, GCC and launching trade negotiations with India. Like introducing digital nomad visas, lifting our presence offshore to attract tourists and also international students. And like backing small businesses to grow with investment boost and getting Wellington out of farmers' way so they can keep driving our economic recovery. These are just some of the actions that we are taking to grow our economy. Kiwis hear a lot of noise from people who want us to keep saying no. No to building roads, no to mining, no to farming, no to foreign investment. But we're not interested in the noise. We're here to get our economy moving and to build a better future for every New Zealander. And with that, to share more about the cost of living, I'll pass on to Nicola.
Thank you, Prime Minister. As you said, it's almost exactly a year since the tax relief delivered in last year's budget took effect. National campaigned on tackling the cost of living crisis. And the cost of living, of course, is the relationship between two things: how much people earn and the prices they pay. Under the previous government, prices rose very rapidly, with annual inflation reaching 7.3%, the highest level since 1990. Wages across the economy couldn't and didn't match that spike in inflation. For 8 consecutive quarters, GDP per capita, an overall measure of living standards, was zero or negative. That is a cost of living crisis. We are now playing catch up. GDP per capita has now risen in the past 2 quarters, and the government is focused on addressing both the income side and the cost side of the cost of living. The tax relief implemented in Budget 2024 delivered on the income side of the equation. We lifted the bottom 3 tax thresholds and made a range of targeted tax measures. This resulted in a reduction in income tax for everyone earning more than $14,000 a year. The other changes tilted the benefits of the package towards low to middle income working families with children. Those have been hit hardest by rising prices. In the year since, households have benefited by an average of $60 a fortnight from those tax changes. That adds up to about $1,560 a year for the average household. Many families have benefited by significantly more, and it's easy for our opponents in Parliament to make nothing of that. But I think if you were to ask most families whether they would miss that money right now, they certainly would. More than 65,000 households have received additional help with their early childhood costs from family boosts, and changes announced recently will increase that support and extend it to more families. Other measures taken to help people with the cost of living include returning the Reserve Bank to a central focus on controlling inflation, bringing government spending back under control to support the Reserve Bank in that job, making sensible changes to residential tenancy laws, aligning the tax treatment of interest costs for rental properties with other investment types, scrapping the last government's plan to increase petrol taxes by 12 cents a litre over 3 years, scrapping the Auckland regional fuel tax, increasing rates rebates for seniors and extending them up to 66,000 more super gold card holders, increasing working for families support for low to middle income families, and extending maximum prescription lengths from 3 to 12 months. Taking the pressure off inflation, that is the general level of price increases across the economy, helps with the cost side of the cost of living equation. Lower inflation means less pressure on prices. The other side of the equation is, of course, wages, so that people can keep up with the modern cost of living, some costs which, of course, are international in nature. So it's pleasing to say that wages are now growing faster than inflation, and forecasts show this trend continuing over the next few years. Of course, people's individual circumstances vary, and that is not to deny that there are certainly families who continue to find things tough. The official cash rate has fallen from 5.5% in August last year to 3.25%. Mortgage rates have come down broadly in step with that. This is significant. For someone who refixes a $500,000 mortgage repayable over 25 years, that can mean about $300 more a fortnight in the pocket. And the positive news is that while some families are already benefiting from that reduction in their repayments, we know that many mortgage holders are yet to refix and feel that benefit. They will be feeling that benefit in the coming months as they refix their mortgages. That benefit will go to them and their household budget, but critically is also likely to flow through to their local shops and their local restaurants. Giving landlords the confidence to re-enter the market and by restoring deductibility for mortgage interest has helped to take the heat out of the rental market. It is difficult to know how much more rents would have increased without that change, but certainly our advice was there would have been a lot more upward pressure on rents. The 2.6% increase in rents for the year to June was the lowest since 2011. Scrapping the Auckland regional fuel tax has saved affected motorists 11.5 cents a litre every time they fill up. Increasing the threshold for eligibility for rates rebates will help up to 66,000 more seniors with their rates repayments. And the changes to working for families announced in this recent budget will deliver an average of $14 extra a fortnight to about 142,000 low to middle income families. Again, it's easy to poo-poo that, but the absence of that money would make a difference to those families. Extending prescription lengths will save thousands of patients on stable long-term medications, the cost and the bother of renewing prescriptions every few months. These specific changes count, but we are also undertaking structural work on cost pressures that exist in significant sectors of our economy. This is about more than just Band-Aids. The last government conclusively proved that Band-Aids are not enough. This includes, for example, our housing growth agenda, going for housing growth to increase housing supply to tackle the underlying issues that have made housing unaffordable in New Zealand. This includes the work we're doing to incentivise and fast-track renewable electricity generation, the work underway to increase supermarket competition, and work to address rising council rates. It is true to say that none of those policy agendas delivers overnight, but the absence of them leads to long-term structural challenges for our economy, and our government is determined to tackle them. As I said, we know many people are still doing it tough, and the economy is recovering from a protracted downturn. However, we know that the fundamental changes we are making will deliver. Economies are like oil tankers. You can't turn them around on a dime. But New Zealand is back on course. Our government is laying the foundations for sustainable income growth through better economic performance, because fundamentally we understand that to drive sustainable income growth, we have to make this a wealthier economy and country. And that is why we are focused on the fundamental drivers of successful economies internationally: developing talent by better educating our kids, competitive business settings, including the investment boost tax credit, promoting global trade and investment, because we won't get rich selling to ourselves, innovation, technology and science, and getting more bang for our buck on investments there, infrastructure for growth, delivering infrastructure projects faster and better. Ultimately, the way to grow people's incomes and help them with the cost of living is to grow the economy, and that's why this government is working so hard on that agenda. Prime Minister, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Nicola. Look, just before we take any questions, movements this week, I'm in Wellington until